So having completed open discovery and done the objective assessment, we need to make the results visible. We don't just need to make them visible in any old way. We need to make them visible so that they're understandable, so that those results invoke the right response and enable us to move forwards to improvement and change. One way to make results visible is using little charts like these. We've asked stakeholders in interviews about the components we're presenting here. It's normal for each stakeholder to think some are more important than others. And in the example from earlier, you've seen that each stakeholder had a different view as to what was first, second and third in terms of importance. What we're doing here is playing back more of the reality. These are the results from the objective survey that we've done. And we can see, for example, that we score lower in accountability and in roles, and we score higher in assurance and service. This will help us gain consensus as to which areas are in greater need of improvement more quickly. So we need to find a way next to distill down the raw data we've captured in the independent assessment and pull together the wording that people have given us in their one-to-ones. We need a summary to engage with. We need to be able to inform but not antagonize. We need to build on the trust that hopefully the first steps interviews have created for us. We need to understand where we are before we move on and try and change. We need to give our stakeholders confidence we understand what the problems are, so that we can come up with good answers to those. So we're doing this against the structured and holistic framework we presented earlier and have used throughout the questions. And in one example here, we found translation of business strategy into operating business plans wasn't happening, which except for the linkage from strategy to IT strategy, which was visible and managed. That's a very difficult point for senior folks to take on board, but clearly if it's not happening and we want to improve our strategy delivery, we've got to address it. A second example, there was a lot of change, but there was no independently overseen and led change portfolio. Prioritization across these matters was ad hoc. The collective resource management process to deploy resource between business as usual and the change items was a little bit sporadic. It wasn't clear to us if change and benefit management was actually part of each directorate's leadership and management oversight activity. These weren't good things that we found. And we found similar points in all these other areas, which are potentially painful to some individuals, but we have to get a clear understanding as to where we are before we can push on and make improvement. So hopefully by now we'll have a clear understanding as to where the problems are, and we'll have discussed amongst the leadership team what are the priorities for solving those. Because now we need a framework for action. We need a vision for what the solution to these problems is going to be. So what might that look like? Well, funnily enough, the framework for the future looks very much like the current state framework. The only difference is that instead of outlining a problem or a concern, we're outlining a vision statement for each of these things. And looking at the example we've just seen with the problem statements, what our vision is in the organisation space is that we have implement a quarterly strategy review driven from the operating plan with updates to it and visibility of outcomes from the progress from change. This is a clear step forwards to connect strategy to delivery and back again. And a second example, the recommendation is that we initiate a change portfolio. We have somebody that provides oversight to all of the connected and disconnected change aspirations that we have, and make sure that is balanced and prioritized, recognizing we have business as usual, value generation and change to manage, and that we have an effective resource allocation, resource management process that goes across those things, so that we dish funding and resources out to the right work items. And responding to the lack of adoption and benefit management in directorate governance, well, let's insert adoption management and benefit review into a typical governance agenda for each directorate head, so that those the outcomes from change would be turned into benefits and help us realise strategic items. And of course, we continue round the clock and complete this for each area. And hopefully we've got a very good vision for how we're going to solve the problems, and can move on to defining the details that would come underneath this.